guys, on this segment we're going to go over brakes and everything brake related on a motorcycle. First, most critical is probably going to be your brake pads. You obviously want to check your pad life and make sure you have plenty of pad life. If you're not sure, again, you can refer to your service manual and specs in regards to what your pad life is, or your dealership can help you with that as well. We do usually recommend replacing with OE factory pads. However, in certain aftermarket applications, you've obviously got to go with what is given. We do have a huge selection of aftermarket pads that we use quite often as well. It really is just based on what your purpose is with your motorcycle and how you intend on using it and riding it. I recommend, when doing pads, also inspecting your rotors. There are specs again on your rotors and their thickness. As a rotor does wear, you often will minimize that thickness and oftentimes get like warpage or fade that will create any sort of odd brake feeling in the lever or in the foot control. You can check that with a dial indicator. Again, that's something that usually we do here if there is a problem with the rotors or pulsing in the rotors. The other one that goes often ignored is your brake fluid. Especially in humid climates like here in Florida, brake fluid does have the ability to absorb moisture. Moisture is bad because it does not, it will compress, unlike hydraulic brake fluid. So it will give your brakes a mushy feeling. It will also prematurely destroy your brake fluid and prevent the braking. So what we do recommend in Harley specs is every 2 years having your brake fluid inspected and flushed. There are brake fluid test strips and other features out there that you can use to test your brake fluid. But here at Harley, especially Adamec, we recommend a minimum 2 years flush your brake fluid. That goes for front and back, and if you have a hydraulic clutch. So anything with brake fluid in it, whether it be .4 or .5, as the years we change on that with Harley, every 2 years, super critical. I would even recommend for someone who does a lot more riding than that to check it more often. It does not hurt. The test strips are the best thing you can do. You can get them at a local, automotive parts store. You can get them at the Amazon. We use them here regularly to test. There's other methods, again, to test brake fluid as well. But you definitely want to check your brake fluid regularly, and it's level at that.
Quick question. So most of the viewers that's on our page, that's on our YouTube, they are extreme. They're nuts when it comes to riding. Typically about 90% of my audience, they ride coast to coast every year. I would say we're probably ranging from riders on our page anything from about 20,000 miles to all the way up to 100,000 miles a year. So I'm just thinking about when you were talking about every 2 years of the brakes.
Yeah.
If you're doing 40K, 50K, you still think 2 years is good, or you think?
I would definitely at that point, and that goes with really almost any maintenance on the vehicle. As soon as you drastically increase your mileage, you definitely want to reconfigure your maintenance plan on that motorcycle because miles obviously has an effect. So a gauged year is kind of all we have to go by as a dealership because of such a huge mileage fluctuation. But yes, I would definitely recommend sooner than that if you're putting a lot of miles.
So what about signs of rotor wear? What are the first signs of that? As a rider, I would say, okay, it's coming.
Rotors can be tricky. Usually the first sign is you're going to feel it, especially with certain rotors. You tend to get what they call a rotor pulse in the rotor. That's generally a sign of rotor warpage or the rotor being out of spec. You'll feel it in the lever when you grab it. It'll give you a little fight back and some pulsating.
Okay.
Now, as far as general rotor wear and its thickness, that's just something you do have to check. Generally, a good bike or motorcycle technician can do that during a service, especially if they notice any sort of abnormal wear. Abnormal wear can be kind of obvious when looking at it, but usual general wear is kind of hard to pick out from anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, so brake pads. So signs for brake pad wear, maybe a little shimmy when I hit the front brakes, maybe a little vibration, or is that?
Brake pads can be tricky in regards to wear. Oftentimes it'll normally be brake noise or noise when engaging the pads. But usually when you get that noise, it's a now situation. Yeah. That's why it's so critical, honestly. So every time at a dealership when we're changing tires, we're doing a service, or anything around or situated with the brakes and or tires or wheels, we're checking brakes for brake pad wear. Because that is something that does often go unnoticed until it's too late, because there aren't really a ton of signs beforehand unless you're checking it routinely.
Okay. Is that, since we're talking about tires and brakes, say wheel bearings, how often should I have those replaced?
Wheel bearings are tricky. Honestly, I've seen wheel bearings go out in 5,000 miles. I've seen wheel bearings go out in 50,000 miles.
Shout out to Memphis. If you want to be Memphis, Tennessee, if you want to be changing wheel bearings, go through Memphis, Tennessee with them ragged behind roads. I'm just telling you that now.
Yeah, wheel bearings is something that honestly it's hard to check unless you have the tire off. I mean, there are methods to check with the rim still mounted to the bike, but the easiest way is during a tire change. And honestly, it should be something that your motorcycle mechanic is addressing with you every time you do a tire change. There should be a way for them to check the wheel bearing before they even start changing that tire. That way they can let you know during the tire change process, hey, the tech pulled the tire off or the wheel off the bike and has noticed that there's some grit or grind to the bearing, or the bearing seems to be wearing abnormally, or often cases, sometimes even the outer seal that covers the ball bearings is discarded. There's a lot of things that you sometimes don't notice when riding that many miles that they catch when doing a tire change.
Well, I've heard of some people, I know some friends of mine, they say they change theirs every time they change tires. I've heard some say they change theirs out every 2 or 3 tires. Then I've heard some say, I don't change them until the mechanic tells me they're going bad. Again, when we're talking about long distance riders, is there a sweet spot for this you, or you just suggest, hey, when they go bad, change them, or, after?
You can usually see that they're starting to go bad, especially for a guy that's doing long miles. You're changing tires far more often than your average rider. So again, if they're checking the bearings when doing a tire change, they should be able to catch it. However, there's always that unknown. You could be super excessive with it and still end up having a problem on the road. It's just one of those things that it's kind of a roll of the dice, to be honest with you. The inspection is probably the most critical advice I can give. Just make sure you're checking it all the time. If you're not sure and you really want to and you're mechanically inclined enough, you could always pull both your front and rear wheels off before a trip and just kind of get the bearings to spin. You can generally tell when they're on their way out. They feel like they've got a clump of sand thrown in them and they're gritty, or they're not smoothly rolling, or any visual wear can generally be a sign that it's time for the bearings.
Would you recommend the average rider change their own brake fluid or flush the brake system? Would you suggest that we have a trained mechanic or technician do that kind of stuff?
Your average Joe, I would have a service facility do it for sure. It's way easier when the technician has a pneumatic bleeder that can pull the brake fluid from the system, as opposed to the old pump and bleed method. Pump and bleed can be very, very tricky and not a whole lot of fun, especially if you're trying tried to do it yourself.
Well, I ain't fooling with it. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah, I would definitely have a technician do it.
Yeah. Hey, so y'all stay tuned, man. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about part 3 and some other things that mechanics will be taking a look at before getting ready for a long distance trip. Hey, let's keep it motorcycle.